David, thank you for being here. I want to just mention again, we will be replaying part of your interview with Pierre Fitzgibbon that you conducted earlier today. Some very interesting stuff in there. I found it, at one point, David, you're a former provincial minister. He's a current provincial minister. That must have been a little odd.
It was maybe in the first few moments of the interview, but then it got into a very interesting gear for me, and I felt that it was like two people that were talking at a certain level, and there was a lot of understanding, and I really appreciated him opening up, and there was a good back and forth and exchange of concepts and ideas. But yeah, at the beginning it was a bit weird, but at the same time it really got into, I think, an interesting conversation on perspectives that he understood, that I understood, and I understood that he understood.
Yeah, because of course you had that same portfolio, right? I mean, at some point.
I had environment.
Right.
I had environment. He had energy.
Energy,
but
right.
But I worked very closely with energy, and of course at a time where we were doing a lot of major moves on climate change.
Yeah.
So yes.
All right. I don't want to talk about what we was in it because people will hear that interview in about 20 minutes from now. So let's talk about a couple of other things, including Francois Legault. Of course, they've risen now for their summer vacation. But he went on today in the National Assembly. Kind of sounded like he was the Francois Legault of old when he was a PQ minister.
Absolutely. And even on TVA, they compared him to Robert Bourassa when he made his famous "Quoi qu'on en dise, quoi qu'on en fasse" speech when Meech Lake failed on June 23rd, 1990. I think we're making a lot of this because it's Premier Legault. It's the last day of the session. Usually, these last days are spent, these boring end of session press conferences by all the leaders and basically rehashing the old messaging. So interesting communication strategy by François Legault to actually make news on this last Friday of the session before the summer break. And he's trying to change the conversation. He first of all, we know that currently the Legault government is an abject failure on absolutely all the issues that Quebecers feel that are priorities for them. The economy, housing, healthcare, education, go down the line, public safety. And so he needs to change the conversation because he cannot get ahead on any of these issues. And the one issue that actually made him stand out and got him to power in 18 and renewed his mandate in 22 was identity politics, right? With 21, with 96, with 40. And on that, he's lost the lead there too to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. And so by creating this commission, and let's be clear here. Some people will try to make some sort of comparison with the Bélanger-Campeau commission that was created after the failure of Meech Lake, and all these great major works on the future of Quebec in the recent or long history of Quebec constitutional history. This is not it. I mean, we're talking about 6 people. And the co-chairs are Sébastien Proulx, a former education minister with the Liberal government that I served under, he was also before that an ADQ MNA with Mario Dumont.
Yeah.
He was Mario Dumont's House leader when Mario Dumont was opposition leader. But the co-chair is a guy named Guillaume Rousseau, who came to prominence in 2018 by being a PQ candidate in Sherbrooke, and then when he lost in 2018, he joined François Legault as an advisor, on what? On secularism, on Bill 21. He is a total advocate for Bill 21 and what it is trying to achieve in Quebec. So I think this is more about a diversion. This is trying to change the conversation, especially going into the summer break. I don't expect great big things. He's going to want to spend this on Monday when he meets Justin Trudeau about immigration and say, well, you know what, if you don't give me what I want, well, I've got this commission that's going to make recommendations. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't see this generating much of anything.
You know, my question would be with respect to this committee, and you mentioned some of the people on it. It seems a foregone conclusion what we're going to get as a result of this committee, doesn't it? We know what's coming.
We know what's coming, and we know all. And of course, there's. And I heard you with James Manny, and does it mean that this is a way to start the conversation towards independence, to take that away from Saint-Pierre Plamondon? I don't see it. I frankly don't see it, because if he did that, you would see people like Éric Girard and Geneviève Guilbeault bolt. I mean, and this is not the time when you want to rock the boat when you're at 25% and you're already hemorrhaging all your nationalist, hardcore, former PQ voters. And so I really don't think that that's the plan here. I think he's more going towards, and I'm going way back in Quebec history on this, but I think he's going towards Daniel Johnson, the father, who in the 60s, when he was facing the Liberals and the Quiet Revolution troops of Jean Lesage, and then Hydraulic Resources Minister René Lévesque, he was talking about autonomy and developing an autonomous position against the intrusions of Ottawa. And what I really think here is that Legault is thinking legacy, looking at 2026, whether or not he's going to run for a third term. But I think he's saying, okay, I don't want to just go off and finish in a loser position. And I think right now what he's doing, he's trying to redefine what is the third way. He wants to have an independent commission to tell him, look, this is what you can do within the constraints of the Canadian Constitution. This is where you can push the envelope as much as you can. He has Luc Godbout on this committee, and that's the real ace in the hole here. Luc Godbout, we actually, when I was in government, we actually hired him to file a report, and I'm sure you covered that at the time, Aaron. He actually filed a report early in our mandate, I think it was in late 2014 or early 2015, about fiscal reform in Quebec and fiscal reform towards what Ottawa was doing. And so he is the kind of guy who is apolitical. He is very respected with regards to Quebec Inc. on fiscal policy. He's an expert. He's one of the top guys in this that we have in Quebec. And so I think it's also about getting ready to present either to Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre, whoever becomes prime minister in the next year and a half, clear demands, because also I think what François Legault is looking for is more money from Ottawa, more than anything else. On immigration, that's going to be the headline beyond the more powers that he's going to be asking and won't get from Trudeau. What he's going to say is, you have to give us the money to manage all the asylum seekers you're letting in. And he's right. I did the same thing when I was immigration minister under Philippe Couillard. If we have to deal with more asylum seekers, just like it's the case right now, and it's going to be another record year in 2024, the costs on social services, which are all covered by the provinces, the federal government has to step up and give us the resources.
Okay, I get the idea of the money and the cost and everything else. Of course, it tends to go from that to then where we're basically, looking at immigrants here and assessing blame. But look, David, he stood up in National Assembly today. What was the point of taking a trip down memory lane by saying reminding everyone Quebec never signed the 1982 Constitution and has been fighting for its rights ever since? What's the point of that exactly?
The point is it's his ego. Remember, François Legault, the whole reason for François Legault going into politics over 25 years ago was to be the sovereignist premier that got the Parti Québécois over the hump and declared independence. That's why he joined Lucien Bouchard. And he failed, and he was, not only did he fail at becoming leader of the Parti Québécois, he's basically kicked out of the Parti Québécois. And so his dream of becoming premier had to be modified, and he saw that the only path was, okay, I'm neither a sovereignist, I'm neither a federalist, the third way. And that got him to power. But the worst thing in the world for François Legault's ego is to come out of all of this, 2 terms as premier, and either being shown the door because you're so low in the polls that you can't even remain leader of the party you founded, or to lose to a Parti Québécois leader. And so I think all of this is about, again, his obsession with identity politics, but first and foremost, he's trying to find a message that will bring back those nationalist voters that have left him since that infamous by-election in Jean Talon back in the fall of 2023.